Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is AureliaDzakiyah Khairunnisa. I'm from Government Argumentative. And my friend,
my name is Fadia Deswita Nurhalizah. I'm from Opposition Argumentative.
Communism is a philosophical, social, political, and economic ideology and movement whose goal is the establishment of a communist society, namely a socio-economic order structured upon the ideas of common ownership of the means of production and the absence of social classes, money, and the state. Communism is a specific yet distinct form of socialism. Communists agree on the withering away of the state but disagree on the means to this end, reflecting a distinction between a more libertarian approach of communization, revolutionary spontaneity, and workers' self-management, and a more vanguardist or Communist Party-driven approach through the development of the constitutional socialist state.
In the 20th century, communist governments espousing Marxism, Leninism, and its variants came into power in parts of the world. First in the Soviet Union with the Russian Revolution of 1917, and then in portions of Eastern Europe, Asia, and a few other regions after World War II. Along with social democracy, communism became the dominant political tendency within the international socialist movement by the 1920s. Criticism of communism can be divided into two broad categories, namely that which concern itself with the practical aspects of 20th century communist state and that which concerns itself with communist principles and theory. Several academics and economists, among other scholars, posit that the Soviet model under which these nominally communist states in practice operated was not an actual communist economic model in accordance with most accepted definitions of communism as an economic theory, but in fact a form of state capitalism or non-planned administrative command system.
Communists were born as a result of the government of Mikhail Gorbachev. He was eager to make change in the Soviet Union state with his ideas and plans that would lead the people out of totalitarianism, socialism, and communism. This man turned out to be the last ruler in the Soviet Union. Mikhail Gorbachev once formed cooperatives and increased freedom for industrial enterprises. In Russia, about half of the population regrets the fall of communism. With the many achievements in the country, for example, the FDNKH Khairunnisa has created in 1939. Leonid Abakin, Deputy Prime Minister in charge of economic reform. He and colleagues had shattered amid that Soviet workers were the masters of their factories and thus became the first in the world to move beyond isolations. This demolition has a clear objective to place all forms of ownership on the same level, whether state, collective, or private. The Communist Party no longer has to carry out the economic and political life in the country directly at all levels, but exercise its influence through several, the now elected Soviets. Incorporation of the Soviet economic into world economic relations and rapid transfers to convertible troubles, such control over foreign trade would probably determine the evolution of its economic and political system. The second is the absence of concrete offers to increase power for the working people in their factories and offices.
My argument about this motion are: first, communism is against the Indonesian ideology, namely Pancasila, the first precept of religion. Second, in communism, the rights of the individual are not very important. Third, communism kills nationalism because power is in the hands of the government.
Then why, at the time, Mr. Sukarno preferred the Indonesian Communist Party, even though he was a very influential figure for Indonesia? Until the year of his death, people did not consider Sukarno as an important figure.
Engineer Soekarno approached the PKI only to strengthen his military. Another reason is to attract the attention of the United States. By supporting the PKI, he hoped that the United States would see it had turned to communism and could help it fight against Malaysia. But right now we are discussing whether the decline of communism is to be regretted.
What do you think if communism can be trusted? It still exists, and the Indonesian Communist Party can rise again with questions on the exam questions for junior high school children about Ekasila that lead to communism. If in Indonesia adhere to only one God in accordance with the existing Pancasila.
The issue of the revival of the Indonesian Communist Party has existed since October 2015 to September 2020, but it has not developed or stagnated. Based on the survey conducted by SMRC on 15 to 21 September 2020, the 84% of respondents do not believe in this issue. So, the majority of Indonesians are not consumed by the issue of the rise of the Indonesian Communist Party.
The FDCOM leader that communist style showed that communism would never cease to exist. Communism grew and flourished in protest when the Industrial Revolution began to grow, where capitalism became more and more visible and human exploitation became the world of dreams. Is a world where people feel the same as the same possessions and run by the state. Communism from the beginning of its birth. Communism was an ideology with thought and ideas in it, thus becoming the core of the ideology.
But if the context is for the economy, communism cannot be used because all rights are in the name of the state that allows for a monopoly.
Because communism contradicts other ideologies, communism has strong radicals toward religion. In the history of Indonesia, communists have inscribed wounds on the Indonesian people, so that because of this incident, the communists were strongly opposed. In communism, human rights are ignored, freedom of the state and nation is limited, and there is no real prosperity in life. Countries that adhere to communism will continue to be oriented in developing countries because people's welfare is regulated by their central government. So the decline of communism need not to be regretted.
I disagree about your arguments. The communists in the Soviet Union gave rise to the discontent of the government elite because communism has an understanding of generalization, economic equity, and regional economic development are hampered and become difficult. All economic rights are owned by the state, so it is the officials who corrupt all assets. Some regret the decline of communism because they are no longer a superpower country.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you for your
attention.
attention.
Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.